Hey guys, it's Ben the Coin Geek at Old Pueblo Coin in Tucson, Arizona. Thanks for being here today. As always, oldpueblocoin.com, tucsoncoinshow.com. Happy to have you here with us for an open box video. As always, do the algorithm stuff, like, share, comment, talk it up a little bit, people. Come on now. And today we're going to talk about a open box video. We sent a bunch of coins into PCGS, and this is kind of a nice, fun mixture of type coins. We sent in on the economy service, and as always, happy to get stuff in that we can preserve by getting encapsulated. As always, I don't generally recommend people send coins in for certification, as in trying to make the grade, so to speak. But if you have an older collection and you want to preserve things, the idea for me is a whole lot more about preservation than anything else. At this point in time, I see so many collections that come in with coins that are raw, with coins that have been mistreated, and it's good to get them in a holder. This 1897S, a little bit better date for the Barber half series, and something that's just kind of a nice clean looking piece and has a jawline, which is good, and you can start to see quite a bit of the leaves up into and on top of the Phrygia cap. There you go, and there you can see part of the Liberty. And I was hoping to get a fine out of this kind of coin. I got a VG10, so pretty close. Probably a $250 type coin. Turnaround time was pretty quick on this group, actually. I think it was just less than a couple months. Next up, this 1915, and now we got something to compare to because I got a couple of nice Barbers in. And you can see, I think things are a little bit bolder, a little bit more Liberty. And much stronger reverse. The rim on the reverse here is a lot stronger than the first coin that we looked at. Really cool piece. Fine detail, scrape. So you probably called it out right away. There's that mark going over the shoulder blade there above the 1 and the 9. Unfortunate. It's a series of unfortunate events, really. I see the scrape, it's there, they called it out, it is what it is. I don't know that there's much to do about that, but I liked the coin because overall it was a very original looking piece. It does have that mark on it, and so I can't be mad at them for calling it out. Next up, 1938 Denver Mint, 10-cent piece, and a lot of this type of stuff is much harder to do to have a nice enough coin and make it worth getting certified. A lot of mid-century coins just don't have a ton of value unless you get into the highest graded mint states. This one we liked. I really liked the color on the reverse of the coin. Very nice original looking piece. And it has really nice full bands. And I think I was hoping for pretty high grade on this, but a 63 is not a high grade. So MS63 on this guy. And I think really what we're looking at here is you have a collection of some scrapes there on the neck and the cheek that they're dinging the coin for, because the fields are really great looking. And that's probably a, I don't know, 30-ish dollar type coin. Let me see here, maybe a little bit more than that. Here is a 38S. Once again, this little group, I'm trying to remember where this group is from. I think these dimes all came in together. Very hard to make the grade. A lot of interesting things that go on some of these coins between the striking process and the planchet rolling out process. You see these real bright marks like right in front of her forehead. That's from when the planchet is made. The planchet is the raw piece of metal that eventually gets put into a coin. So we had another coin with the full bands. Full bands are these 3 sets of bands that go horizontally. Yeah, I did it right the second time. Across the fasces, which is that weapon from ancient times. Really lovely reverse, very original skin on that coin. 65 full band. Not bad. That's, I think, kind of what we were hoping for on that particular coin. It's about $150-ish type coin on him. Oh, the earthquake. All right, next up, 39 Denver Mint. And 39 Denver. So a lot of the coins from the late 30s are actually very available on your dimes and on your half dollars and quarters. You know, that's kind of the transition. Even through World War II, you see a lot of coinage available. And this one is just really, really smooth. Not a lot of contact marks anywhere. Once again, you can see really strong bands on this particular piece. But 39D is relatively available type coin. You see them in pretty high grade. So really nice looking piece there. 67 full band. That is a really nice coin. That's about $150 plus coin. All right, next up, there's Standing Liberty Quarters. My goodness. So getting some of these earlier little albums in, occasionally you get the earlier dates like this 1919 Denver, and just really cool to see some of the earlier pieces in just kind of a nice original, well-worn look, something that came out of an album. You can really tell, at least I can, that this coin was in a old album where the coin gets pressed into the album, and then the obverse is exposed to the air, but the reverse is against the paper. This kind of look that you see on the reverse of the coin with a little bit of that dark spotting, and that's the type of thing that you see from a coin when you pop it out of an album. VG10, probably $150 type coin on that guy. Kind of just a nice, even looking example for that one. So the Standing Liberty Quarter Series is pretty tough. You got those coins that are all in that. Well, the 1916, the first year is really the impossible year. Then after that, 17s you see quite a bit of, but then you get into the 19s and the 21s, and they just become real tough. This particular one was also, I think, from an album. I think probably the same album as the other one. And this one they called a VG8. Another coin that's going to be $175-ish type coin, something like that. So the majority of well-worn coins from the previous century are not really worth getting certified unless you just want to preserve something you've had for a while. Next up, this 29 Denver minted coin. This one is kind of interesting. Has you get to see the beauty of how these coins were when they were fully struck, and very lustrous all over. You do notice that they are relatively subdued in nature, as far as like they're not a really high relief coin. So by that I mean the design elements are kind of soft on the wings at the full design and the feathers, so the bird doesn't have a lot of hard, sharp details like you'd see in some of today's modern coins. Same with the chainmail and the shield and the wall. But this is kind of a fun coin, AU58. I would consider sending this into CAC only because people have started collecting AU58s as like a subset category. But this particular coin, another coin that's going to be close to that $150 kind of ballpark. What do we got next here? Okay, a nickel for you, a nickel for me, 1915. This is a Denver minted coin. Nickels are very interesting, especially the Buffalo nickel, because they are nickel is such a soft metal. The luster ability, I'll say, of nickels is very different than that of silver. And so finding nickels that have really nice eye appeal with some luster to them can be hard, even in nicer grades. This particular coin is graded AU58. A little bit of wear on that guy, and this is probably about $175 coin. Nice looking Buffalo nickel. Okay, so I don't know what I'm going to do with this coin. Y'all, so I got, sometimes you hear me talk about mid-century modern and how hard it is to find nice looking coins. This 1949 Denver minted Jefferson nickel. It is a nice grade, but really on a coin like this, it's just all about the eye appeal. And so there are points in time when coins are really valued based on a technical grade, but then there's the reality of, you know what, you just can't, just can't stop a rockin'. Look at a coin like this and you think, well, I don't know, what am I willing to sell it for? Because as an actual MS66 nickel, it's probably worth 20 or 30 bucks. But the reality is, I don't know. I'd be hard pressed to price this coin for less than $75. I don't know. Maybe we'll put up for auction. But I'm a fan of anything that I can find that is pretty that normally is not. Right? Like, if you can make a coin that's normally not considered attractive. So I sent these two coins in for that reason, and they weren't there to get a technical grade. I wanted to get them in a holder. They're very different looking coins, right? So that one had a really nice, cool, gentle tone all the way around. This coin has the bright center to it, but look at the radiant edges. Like, how often do you see that color palette on a nickel? And for those of you who don't know, that's a rhetorical question. The answer is not very often. So just such a cool piece, something that was also in an album. I was like, dang. And when they're in an album, it's easy to kind of tell because you've got, a whole bunch of coins next to each other, and all of a sudden one just kind of pops. It's like grading on a curve. You're like, oh yeah, I'm going to take that out. 64 full steps. Once again, a coin that we'll see. We may auction it off. The grade value of that coin is, not a lot, 25, 30 bucks. By the way, the full steps are the steps leading up to the building when they are completely struck up. That's what that means. 1909. This is a Philadelphia mint. Kind of interesting little Barber dime. This is on the list of coins that I find intriguingly inexpensive relative to the ability to find. That is to say that, I don't see many of these. They don't come in the store as often as, or even at shows as frequently as you see a lot of other coins that are priced much more, much higher. I mean, this is a coin that's probably about $150 coin. I do want to point out that I thought this was a slider. So a slider is a term that's used in the industry to talk about a coin that looks uncirculated that is technically not. I thought this was going to come back at 58. And it's not because of that big mark on the chin. It's because of all of the very, very fine lines coming across the surface of the coin. And I think you can see it at that angle. So I thought that was a slider, or a super slider, as some people might say, but that's probably about a $150 coin in that holder. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, it's 1912. You can see just how stronger the luster is in the field on both sides of the coin. Like if we're looking at the reverse of this coin here, the first coin, you see how it kind of gets darker above the word one and below the word dime versus this one. It just has that full black and white the whole way. Really nice looking piece. So this one they graded MS63. I'm liking this coin quite a bit. The fields are really, really nice, very original looking, and then you have a couple scuffs on the cheek. So this one I really like the coin. I think it's a nice grade. Probably about $175-ish type coin on that guy. And somehow we've got another Mercury buried in the middle here, 1936. I think this is another one of those coins that I was looking at, and I mean the grade is going to be nice, but also I like the originality of the coin. Once again, hard to get these to grade high enough to actually make it worth getting certified, because even a coin like this, which has a real nice original look to it, and graded MS65 full bands is less than $100 type coin. And so you got to think about, after spending, 25 or 30 bucks to get a coin certified, how's that going to work out, right? Like, there's always a lot of cost involved in selling coins too, if you're me, right? I mean, if you're doing it yourself and you don't count your time, if you're not counting any kind of labor, then it's probably a little bit different. Okay, and then we're going to round this out with a gauntlet of proof coins from the 50s. And most of these coins are probably going to be, well, let's see, the first half, well, we'll go through them individually because they're not all the same. So really great looking reverse. I love how this coin looks on the back. That's kind of what I like to see on a proof. The obverse doesn't have quite as much contrast to it. Super hard to grade proofs, I ain't gonna lie. Those mirror finishes will get you every time. So MS65, proof 65 rather, and that is probably about a $50 type coin. Matzo, give or take here. 1951, so hopefully we'll see. Now, did you like this coin better than the previous one? I think it's got a better look all around on the fields, on the obverse, and then the reverse also. You got some real gentle tone to it. Very strong, very satiny, very original. And there we go. We got the red, white, and the red, white, and blue of America. And remember, you can't spell America without Erica. Thank you. All right, how about the grade, Ben? Who's my first day on the job? Proof 66. Both of those coins are in the, roughly $50 ballpark. 1952. So this one's a little tricky because you can see some of those marks on the neck, and it's funny because they just look so wild up close here. You see how those lines, those dots look like they're circular? Well, that's from someone polishing the die with like a circular, like a Dremel type tool. Heavy frosting on the In God We Trust. Bro's not messing around there. And then the rest of the coin is, that's wild because there's a real strong cameo just on the In God We Trust. 1952 famously has the Super Bird. This is not the Super Bird, no S on the chest. More of those die polish lines. This one also came back proof 66. Can be confusing because, like I said, you see all those lines, and even the ones that look like kind of like that asterisk mark, those are all raised lines. That is all from the dies. Those are not down into the surface of the coin. So that's another coin that's probably in the $50 range. And then, well, once you get back after that roughly 53, I didn't get a 53 in here, but 50, 51, 52, you can get some pretty good price points on a few of those coins. Here you see those same die polish lines. But once you get into the later 50s, you really need to start getting like 68s, 69s. I mean, you need super high grade coins to make them really jump in value. I love the originality of the back of that coin. That's really nice. Proof 66. And that guy is pretty inexpensive. It's probably worth less than the grading fees. 1950 half. All right, going to the halves next. The halves and the half-nots. All right, so this one I'd anticipate a lower proof state. You have a lot of marks on here that are actually on the coin. So versus not. So sometimes if you change the angle of the coin, you can see a little bit better when a line is what the line is. I draw the line, but some of those longer sweeping lines that you're seeing right there, those are actually on the coin. They are not die polish, whereas a couple of these radical lines up here on his shoulder blade are actually die polish. So kind of an interesting coin all around. Lovely tone to the reverse. Very pretty. Bar is a bar face. I mean, very pretty from a distance. They're proof 63. And still probably a $300 coin. The 1950 set, you're going to get some high value coins mixed throughout that. 1951. Same thing, the 51 half. Pretty tough. And you have this return all of a sudden as you go farther down the line. Proof 65 on this guy, so you've got a coin that's a fewer lines on it. This is probably about a $250 type coin. Nice looking reverse. Once again, almost getting a cameo look to it. So we'll see. I'm trying to get a cameo appearance too, but just maybe I'll try to get into the, I don't know, White Men Can't Jump too. 1952 proof. So here we go. Now this starts to have a really nice satin finish to it. Much better looking coin than the other two. And so we're going to end up going up the grade scale on this. Up the town. Proof 66, but the price points start dropping. Probably a less than $200 type coin on this guy. Lovely coin. You know, and for a lot of you guys out there, if you're going to not really collect necessarily these coins or these sets, you might want to consider just buying one for a really nice looking proof Franklin half if it's your birth year, especially if you can get something with some contrast. Now see this, how glossy the finish is, and you see a lot of this on this time period of coin where you end up having just kind of a glossy finish with absolutely no contrast, and that's why people collect the cameoed coins. So even a coin like this first 1952 coin that has, you know, no cameo designation because it's not a cameo, that offset's not there. Just look at the difference though between the two. And once again, you see a coin here on the right, the 1953, where none of Ben Franklin has any of the cameo look, but the Liberty, the In God We Trust, and the date all have some of that effect to it, and possibly the slightest rotation on this 1953. Yeah, the bell's ringing a little bit. That one graded proof 65, you know, becomes a probably sub $100 type coin on that guy. And then we get to 1954. 1954. Another really nice finish. Real nice satiny finish on that coin. Oh, there's one more coin after this. I thought this was the last one. Proof 66, another coin that's going to be less than $100 on that particular coin. And last and certainly least, this 1955, where we thought we had a real nice looking coin, and then you know, sometimes you miss things when you're looking or not looking. Okay, I see what they're seeing. So they're calling out a scratch here, and it's not this big crack. It's this line running. Let me see if I can get it completely on the horizontal. That line running right across there. So they call this one scratch. So I kind of wish they would say, instead of unk detail, proof detail, but I guess it's a grade point. Yeah, that makes sense, unk detail. So that coin is probably pretty inexpensive. Probably not worth its grading fee. So anyways, guys, thanks so much for being here today. I'm Ben the Coin Geek. You can subscribe by clicking on the owl button in the corner and watch more videos on the right side of the screen. Thanks.